From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We're slowly getting there, on winning this thing, but there's going to be a few battles that we're going to have to go through whenever we're going to win this thing, too.
An historic win for the Standing Rock Sioux in North Dakota and the environment. The Army Corps of Engineers has denied a permit for the Dakota Access Pipeline to drill below the Missouri River, officially halting construction. But the company behind the pipeline has vowed to build on. This comes as thousands of veterans descend on Standing Rock to form a human shield around the water protectors.
When you really think about the treaties and stuff, it makes me think back, why did I do what I did to serve my country when the government told us and did all the things, the hurtful things they've done to my ancestors?
We'll speak with Dave Archambault, chair of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, Tara Hauska of Honor the Earth, and with Remy, Navy veteran and member of the Navajo Nation, whose grandfather was a code talker. Meanwhile, people have been protesting at banks worldwide, demanding they divest from the Dakota Access Pipeline.
We, the Bellingham No DAPL, No Dakota Access Pipeline Coalition, are here in attendance today, December 3rd, 2016, at the Wells Fargo branch in Bellingham, Washington, to protest the institution's investment in the Sunco Logistics, energy transfers, and energy transfer equity. We refuse to be silent, community members, in your decision to support the destructive fossil fuel economy in general and the Dakota Access Pipeline.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In North Dakota, water protectors resisting the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline have scored an historic victory. On Sunday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers denied Energy Transfer Partners, the company behind the pipeline, a permit to drill underneath Lake Wahey on the Missouri River, officially halting construction. The pipeline is slated to carry crude oil from the Bakken oil fields of North Dakota through South Dakota, Iowa, and into Illinois, where it's slated to link up with another pipeline to carry the oil down to the refineries in the Gulf. The project has faced months of resistance from the Standing Rock Sioux in North Dakota, members of more than 200 indigenous nations from across the Americas, and thousands of their non-native allies, all concerned the pipeline's construction will destroy sacred Sioux sites and that a pipeline leak could contaminate the Missouri River, which serves as a water supply for millions. Standing Rock protester Maureen Archambault celebrated the news.
We're slowly getting there, on winning this thing, but there's going to be a few battles that we're going to have to go through whenever we're going to win this thing, too.
We'll go to North Dakota for more on the Standing Rock Sioux after headlines. The Washington Post is reporting Donald Trump's protocol-breaking telephone conversation with Taiwan's leader on Friday was an intentionally provocative move that's been planned weeks in advance. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen's call to Trump marked the first communication between leaders of the United States and Taiwan since 1979. China lodged a diplomatic protest with the United States, saying the One China policy was the bedrock of relations with the United States. China considers Taiwan to be part of its territory and not an independent nation. This is Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi.
The Taiwan side's engagement is a petty action that cannot change the China structure by the international community. I believe that it won't change the long-standing One China policy of the United States government.
Trump's call with the president of Taiwan has also raised new questions about his business dealings. There have been multiple reports that representatives of the Trump Organization have traveled to Taiwan in recent months to explore possible deals, including building luxury hotels near Taiwan's main airport. Donald Trump has nominated former presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson to serve as Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Carson's been a vocal critic of HUD's fair housing rule, which requires local communities to assess patterns of income and racial discrimination in housing. Dr. Carson has described the rule as a, quote, mandated social engineering scheme. He said, quote, this is just an example of what happens when we allow the government to infiltrate every part part of our lives. This is what you see in communist countries, Dr. Carson said. Meanwhile, Trump is reportedly broadening his search for a Secretary of State. New candidates being considered include former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN John Bolton, retired Admiral James Stavridis, and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Other finalists are said to include ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee. Michigan's become the second state to conduct a recount of the presidential election. Early this morning, a federal judge ordered officials to begin recounting ballots today at noon. The order was made following a request by Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. Donald Trump won Michigan by under 10,000 votes out of 5.5 million cast. A recount is already underway in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, Dr. Stein's efforts to force a recount in Pennsylvania were dealt a setback when a judge ordered petitioners to post a $1 million bond. Stein is holding a news conference outside Trump Tower today at 10 a.m. to discuss next steps on the recount. In Oakland, California, at least 33 people have died after a fire ripped through a converted warehouse hosting an electronic music concert. The death toll is expected to continue to rise. It's already the deadliest fire in the city's history. The fire broke out in what was known as the Ghost Ship, an artist collective that housed many young artists and musicians. Mourners have been gathering to remember those lost in the fire.
They were amazing. You know, they're amazing, and I'm sorry for, everyone's loss. It's the people I didn't know. It's just, I can't even, it's mind-blowing. It's heartbreaking.
Cuba has concluded 9 days of mourning after the death of Fidel Castro. On Sunday, his ashes were entombed near the remains of Cuba's independence hero José Martí in a cemetery in Santiago de Cuba. Cuban President Raúl Castro, Fidel Castro's brother, talked about his legacy.
He demonstrated, yes, it was possible. It was possible to overcome any obstacle, any threat to or challenge to our firm undertaking of building a socialism in Cuba, or likewise guaranteeing the independence and sovereignty of the fatherland.
Among those who attended Fidel Castro's funeral were former Brazilian President Lula Inácio da Silva.
I see here right now much sadness. I know what Fidel represented here in Santiago for the Cuban nation, throughout the whole world, for those who struggle for social equality, for those who struggle for dignity.
That's former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. In news from Austria, a Green Party politician has been elected president, defeating the head of the anti-immigration Freedom Party. The Freedom Party's Norbert Hofer was attempting to become the first freely elected far-right head of state in Europe since World War II. The party was founded by former Nazi party members. Green leader Alexander Van der Bellen celebrated his victory after winning 53% of the vote.
I will try to be an open-minded, a liberal-minded, and, first of all, a pro-European federal president of the Republic of Austria.
In other news from Europe, Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has announced he'll resign after his plan to reform the constitution was rejected by voters. This leaves Italy in a state of political turmoil. The rejection of the referendum was hailed as a victory by several anti-establishment and anti-immigrant groups in Italy. In news from Louisiana, the NAACP and other groups have staged a series of protests after authorities released a man suspected of shooting and killing former NFL player Joe McKnight in a possible case of road rage. The suspect, 54-year-old Ronald Gasser, who is white, was released without being formally charged, even though he admitted shooting McKnight, who's African-American, multiple times. Police said they're still investigating the incident. Jurors in South Carolina are scheduled to resume deliberations in the case of Michael Slager, the white police officer who was caught on video shooting 50-year-old African-American Walter Scott in the back as he ran away, killing him. On Friday, the jurors twice informed the judge they were unable to reach a unanimous verdict. One man has said he will not vote to convict the police officer. Over the weekend, federal authorities in Texas reportedly released nearly 500 women and children from the nation's two largest family detention centers. Legal advocates say most families were released without travel plans, and volunteers worked with a local church to open shelter space early Saturday morning. The move followed a ruling Friday by a Texas judge that bars the state's Department of Family and Protective Services from issuing child care licenses to family detention centers. Advocates say conditions at the facilities are equivalent to prisons. The judgment effectively invalidates the licenses now used to operate the faculties, which are owned by GEO and Core Civic, formerly known as Corrections Corporation of America. Human rights groups have called on the Obama administration to end the practice of detaining families before the end of his administration. An American priest assassinated in Guatemala in 1981 has moved a step closer to sainthood. On Friday, the Vatican declared Reverend Stanley Rother to be a martyr. Rother was killed by a right-wing death squad in his church rectory. He died on the same day U.S.-backed Guatemalan troops killed 13 people and wounded 24 others in the same town where he was murdered. Stanley Rother is the first American to be ever declared a martyr by the Catholic Church. In Washington, D.C., an armed North Carolina man was arrested Sunday after walking into the popular pizza restaurant Comet Ping Pong and then firing at least one shot. For weeks, right-wing websites have been spreading conspiracy theories about the restaurant, claiming Hillary Clinton and other prominent Democrats were running a child sex ring from the restaurant's back rooms. The fake news story became known as Pizzagate. The North Carolina man, Edgar Madison Welch, told police he traveled to D.C. to, quote, self-investigate the story. He's been charged with assault with a dangerous weapon. In other news, President-elect Donald Trump took to Twitter early Sunday to slam the latest episode of Saturday Night Live. He wrote, quote, "Just tried watching Saturday Night Live, unwatchable, totally biased and not funny, and the Alec Baldwin impersonation just can't get any worse. Sad." Trump wrote the message shortly after Baldwin poked fun at Donald Trump's use of Twitter on the show.
And I just retweeted the best tweet. I mean, wow, what a great, smart tweet.
Mr. Trump, we're in a security briefing.
I know, but this could not wait. It was from a young man named Seth. He's 16, he's in high school, and I really did retweet him. Seriously, this is real.
On Sunday, Alec Baldwin responded to Donald Trump on Twitter. Baldwin wrote, quote, "Real Donald Trump, release your tax returns and I'll stop. Ha." And some residents of the Chevy Chase neighborhood in Washington, D.C. are welcoming their newest neighbor, Vice President-elect Mike Pence, by hanging rainbow-colored flags from their homes. Pence is living in the neighborhood until Inauguration Day. This is Allison Fenn, one of Pence's neighbors.
Given the governor's stance on gay rights issues, it seemed like a really crucial message to make, that everyone needs to be supported rather than feel threatened. And I think we have a fundamental disagreement with his stand on this, and just want to not only bring it to his attention, but to make others feel supported who might otherwise feel threatened.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In North Dakota, water protectors resisting the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline have won an historic victory. On Sunday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers denied Energy Transfer Partners, the company behind the pipeline, a permit to drill underneath Lake Wahey on the Missouri River, officially halting construction. The pipeline is slated to carry crude oil from the Bakken oil fields of North Dakota through South Dakota, Iowa, and into Illinois, where it's slated to link up with another pipeline to carry the oil down to refineries in the Gulf. The projects face months of resistance from the Standing Rock Sioux in North Dakota, members of more than 200 indigenous nations from across the Americas, and thousands of their non-native allies, all concerned the pipeline's construction will destroy sacred Sioux sites and that a pipeline leak could contaminate the Missouri River, which serves as a water supply for millions. The growing resistance movement is the largest gathering of Native Americans in decades. In a statement issued Sunday, Jo Ellen Darcy, the Army's Assistant Secretary for Civil Works, said, quote, "Although although we have had continuing discussion and exchanges of new information with the Standing Rock Sioux and Dakota Access, it's clear there's more work to do. The best way to complete that work responsibly and expeditiously is to explore alternate routes for the pipeline, unquote. Darcy also indicated the government will undertake an environmental impact statement for this section of the pipeline, a lengthy process that takes months, if not years. The Army's announcement Sunday came as thousands of Native and non-Native military veterans gathered at Standing Rock, ready to form a human shield around the water protectors who faced an increasingly violent police crackdown that's cost the state of North Dakota more than $10 million. In response to the Army's announcement, Energy Transfer Partners and Sunoco Logistics, which is slated to operate the pipeline if it's built, issued a joint statement accusing the White House of taking a purely political action and saying the companies are, quote, fully committed to ensuring that this vital project is brought to completion and fully expect to complete construction of the pipeline without any additional rerouting in and around Lake Wahe, unquote. Well, for more, we go directly to Standing Rock, where we're joined by Standing Rock Sioux Chairman Dave Archambault. Chairman, welcome back to Democracy Now! First, respond to the latest news, the action of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
You know, I think it's something that's historic, like you had said, and it's something that it takes a lot of courage for decision makers to come up and make the right decision, to make the right choice in this matter. And we've been talking about this with the Corps of Engineers for almost 2 years now, and we've been letting them know that we had problems with this pipeline because it not only threatens our water, it threatens our heritage, it threatens our culture, it threatens our environment. We as a people have a right to stand up for this, and so we expressed those feelings from the very beginning. We expressed those feelings with the company. We expressed the feelings with the senators of the state, the congressmen of the state. You know, everybody knew that Standing Rock was opposed to this pipeline because of the threats that it has on our people. And we had a lot of support. So when this decision came down by the Corps of Engineers, it feels like finally, for the first time in history, over centuries, somebody's listening to us. And in order to listen to us, they have to make the right decision. And it takes a lot of courage to do that when you're up against an oil company who tries to dictate to the federal government what has to be done and when it has to be done and where it has to be done.
Were you surprised?
Yes, I was very surprised. Something like this has never rolled in our favor ever. And so I'm just thankful for all the people who gave support, all the people who contributed in one way or another and believed in this and stayed with the peaceful protests all along. And I think that was what helped us over the edges. So we maintained our position. We were peaceful and prayerful. And we try to do the best that we can to build awareness for everyone. And I want to thank you, Amy, for all the work that you have done as well to build awareness.
Well, Chairman, the Army Corps of Engineers denied the permit to build the pipeline under the Missouri, which it needs. But Energy Transfer Partners says now it doesn't need this and that they are moving full steam ahead. They're going to continue building. Is this possible?
No, it's not possible. And if they continue to press the government, they're going to shut the whole program down. They're going to shut the whole project down, and there will be no pipeline. So that's not possible. And the company knows that. They need the easement in order to move forward. And so this is just another example of corporate world forcing its hand on a people and on the government. And this has to stop. They have to realize that the laws are there, and if they can start to break laws to force their hand on everybody, they're putting their investors at risk, and nothing will happen.
The Army's Assistant Secretary for Civil Works, Jo Ellen Darcy, said in a statement the best way to complete that work responsibly and expeditiously is to explore alternate routes for the pipeline's crossing. What would that mean, Chairman?
I would say just get it off of our treaty lands. You know, we know within our treaty boundaries what sites are sacred and what is meaningful, what places are sacred to us, and if they just reroute it. And I had a discussion with the CEO, Kelsey Warren, and he felt that if we had the discussion early on, this wouldn't be the final route. But because they put the investors' money at risk by continuing to build without a permit, he has nowhere else to go. So he's going to try to force this project through at this site. But sometime we're going to have to put people before money.
Do you now expect the government to undertake a full environmental impact statement, and what would that mean?
The difference between an environmental impact statement and an environmental assessment is environmental assessment only looks at the least impactful route for the environment. But with the EIS, environmental impact statement, you take into consideration people. And what we have here is a people of the first people that occupied this nation's lands. We were always here before anybody else, and that's something special. That's meaningful, and because we are here, we have every right to oppose this pipeline because we feel that this pipeline will threaten not only our water but our heritage, our culture, our environment, and we have to say, don't do that to us anymore. You did it to us all too long, for 200 years, and for the interest of energy independence, economic development, national security, we pay for that. We continue to pay for it. So today, we're asking you to stop. Don't do that anymore. And somebody's listening, finally.
Last week, President-elect Donald Trump expressed his support for the completion of the Dakota Access Pipeline. In a communications briefing, Trump's transition team said his support for the pipeline, quote, has nothing to do with his personal investments, unquote. As of 2015, Trump had between $500,000 and $1 million invested in the pipeline company Energy Transfer Partners, although the Trump spokesperson, Hope Hicks, recently claimed Trump has sold off his shares in the company, also invested in Phillips 66, which would be involved with the pipeline if it's built. What about this, and what does this transition of power mean for the pipeline? Could this just be reversed when Donald Trump becomes president?
You know, I see it as an opportunity for indigenous peoples, for tribes to start a relationship with President-elect and help him understand what is important to the first occupants of this nation and what we have paid for. His wealth is built off of our backs, and he doesn't realize that. So we have to help him understand, and this is a huge opportunity for us, and help him understand that this decision that was made by the Corps of Engineers is the right decision. And you have to, at one time, put money aside and say, what is it that the people want? What is it that we can do to make lives better for this country? Let's look at the years that are yet to come, the 50 years ahead, and find out what we can do to make sure that there still is life here. And so we have a huge opportunity in front of us to help President-elect understand our issues. And I look forward to a conversation. And just like I had with Kelsey Warren, you know, I have nothing personal against the president, nothing personal against Kelsey Warren. I have nothing personal against the senators and the congressmen of this state of North Dakota or the governor. They have to realize that we are here, and we've always been here, and we're not going anywhere. And there are some things that are just precious and important to us, and everybody has to understand that. And we're not opposed to pipeline construction. We're not opposed to economic development, energy independence. Just don't continue to do it and expect us to pay for it. So when this pipeline breaks, who's going to pay for it? We will be the first ones to pay for it. And we've been paying for this nation's wealth, safety, and security from day one.
Chairman Archambault, what happens now at the resistance camps? They have swelled to thousands. You have the Dakota Access Pipeline saying they're moving ahead. What's next?
The pipeline's not going to move ahead. The campers that are there can now enjoy the winter with their families at home. The winters are going to get harsh here, and it's time. You know, they had a purpose, and that purpose was served. That was to help us build awareness and show the support and stand with us. And so today, it's a beautiful day, and every day is a good day, and they have to realize that we're no longer needing the purpose that they set out to do. So and it's okay. The company will not build beyond the easement that isn't given to them, so they can go home.
Chairman Archambault, you're among the hundreds of people who have been arrested since the resistance grew. What happens now with the sheriff, with the police actions that have become increasingly violent, from the water cannons to the sound cannons to the military equipment? $10 million, we understand, has been spent at least on police activities.
Yeah, what we have to do is we have to try to rebuild relationships that were harmed. You have to understand that I live here in this community. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe is not going anywhere. When this all disperses, the water protectors leave, the energy transfer partners, Dakota Access Pipelines leave, and we're left with the residual effects. So it's important for us to try to continue to establish relationships with the state and with the surrounding communities, and that includes Morton County and the Sheriff's Department. Now, I do believe that there was an opportunity for the sheriff to better handle this situation, and it was an opportunity for this governor of the state to better handle the situation. But the path they chose harmed relationships, so we have to try to reestablish and rebuild those relationships.
Well, Chairman Archambault, I want to thank you very much for joining us from the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. We thank you for this update, and of course we'll continue to follow what takes place here. What do you say to those who say they're not moving, they don't have faith that the pipeline won't go forward, they're staying at the camps?
They have to pray. They have to continue to pray, and they have to start taking the lessons that were given at this camp. What did we learn at this camp? That prayer and peace is what's going to help us be successful. It's not the violent acts by people that build awareness. It's the moral high ground that everybody needs to take. And if they want to stay, it's going to be at their own risk, and there's really no need for them to stay. They can go home and enjoy this winter, enjoy the holidays, if they celebrate them with their families. And I'm sure their families are yearning for them. So it's okay now. And I understand their mistrust for the government and for this company, because from the beginning, nothing was held to. You know, we asked the company to voluntarily stop, but they wouldn't stop. So I understand how they feel, but it's okay. And the company did not get the easement. And so that's going to be a process, a long drawn-out process, even if the company tries to reverse this, and even if the president tries to reverse it, it's not going to happen this winter. So it's okay for them to go home.
Well, I want to thank you again, Chairman Dave Archambault, chair of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, speaking to us from Standing Rock in North Dakota. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, we'll speak with one of the many veterans who have come to protect the water protectors. He comes from Arizona, Navajo. His grandfather, a Navajo code talker. Stay with us.
The virus took on many shapes. The bear, the elk, the antelope, the elephant, the deer, the mineral, the iron, the copper, the coltan, the rubber, the coffee, the cotton, the sugar, the people, the people, the people, the people. The germ traveled faster than the bullet. They harvest the mountainside, protect the crops, herd the cattle. The people, the people, the people, the people, the people. The women and children were separated from the men. They're divided us according to the regional filters of their minds. The violence of arrogance crawls into the air, nestles into the geospatial cortex. We are not a conquered people. By my elder brother. The compound was on fire.
The Virus by a Tribe Called Red, featuring Saul Williams. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. On Sunday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers denied Energy Transfer Partners, the company behind the Dakota Access Pipeline, a permit to drill underneath the Lake Wahey on the Missouri River, officially halting construction. The announcement came as thousands of Native and non-Native military veterans descended on Standing Rock, vowing to form a human shield around the protectors who have faced an increasingly violent police crackdown that's injured hundreds of people and cost the state of North Dakota more than $10 million. This is Navy veteran Rob McCaney.
I am here because I saw on television what was taking place, and I actually saw it on BBC News and not on American news because they weren't showing it. And they're doing things to people there that we don't even do in combat. And I cannot stand by taking an oath for this country and see what's happening here and not stand up for it.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had originally said it would close access to the main resistance camps today, December 5th, setting up the possibility of a major showdown between the Department of the Army and thousands of veterans of the Army and other branches of the U.S. Armed Forces. But instead, on Sunday, the Army announced it was in denying the pipeline permit. This is Native American veteran Aiden Bearcub reacting to the news.
This lifted my heart. You know, we came down here from Washington State to support these brave water protectors, and we came in yesterday expecting the worst, but this is the best news that I've heard forever. The best news for Native people, Native country, the whole United States, all the people, because water is so precious.
For more, we're joined by Remy, a Navy veteran and member of the Navajo Nation, who's been at Standing Rock for the past 5.5 months. He's a movement artist and member of the Indigenous Veterans Council at Standing Rock. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Remy. Your response to the Army Corps of Engineers announcing they will not grant a permit for Energy Transfer Partner to build the Dakota Access Pipeline under the Missouri.
Yate, Amy, I'm really kind of skeptical about the ruling. I think everyone at camp is also cautious as well, and we're just moving forward with continuing to really winterize, and until the project has actually ended, we will continue to move forward in the same fashion that we have been all along.
So you're a veteran. It was the Army that made this decision to deny the permit. Your thoughts about that?
No, I think it's great that we have some sort of solidarity with the other armed forces that were here and the ones that are doing things in Washington and other places. So it's great that we have this type of movement generation where we were able to reach across all of the armed forces.
How did veterans standing for Standing Rock come together? With how many would you estimate have now descended on the resistance camps?
The project was eventually, this project was put together by Phyllis Young and Wesley Clark. Phyllis had put out a call to Wesley, and he answered. And with him came over 2,000 veterans to Standing Rock.
Wesley Clark, not to be confused with the general who ran for president.
Oh, yes. Wesley Clark Jr. So right now you have about almost 10,000 people here at camp in support of our movement to stop this pipeline.
This is maybe a little off topic, but can you tell us about your grandfather, what it meant to be a Navajo code talker?
Well, to clarify that was my grandma's brother. So in our culture, I call him Chiche. Chiche Mike Kiani was a Navajo code talker. He was instrumental in winning the World War II, the code that was never broken. And so coming here and seeing other members of other armed forces who have gone through other battles and persevered is something that I take with me and I've always had with me. He was a holy person, and his prayers are songs and traditions remain with me and have kept me here and protected while I've been here in Standing Rock.
How long have you been there?
Been here over 5.5 months solid, but originally Weaki Eagleman, one of the original people who answered the call from Standing Rock, he's from the Sicangu tribe, he actually invited us out over 7 months ago.
I just wanted to go back to something you said when you talked about the two people who founded this Veterans Stand for Standing Rock, and you talked about Wesley Clark, and you said it's Wesley Clark Jr. So he is the son of the retired U.S. Army General Wesley Clark, who ran for president, who organized the veterans to come to Standing Rock?
That's correct. He came out, reached out about a couple weeks ago, and he wanted some on-the-ground organizing that was happening. So he reached out to me. He wanted somebody who was trusted and also a veteran. And so having been here so long, we made a connection. And through Phyllis, we've been able to really bring together this number of people, and we're looking at probably around 3,000 veterans that have showed up and answered the call. It's
fascinating that it's Wesley Clark Jr. because Wesley Clark Sr., the retired Army general, is formerly the Supreme Commander of NATO's military forces. Remy, the plans right now, are the camps at one of the biggest points they've ever been with the thousands of people there. Today was really ground zero, but now all that changes with the denial of the permit. So are you planning to go back home? And in Arizona, what are the struggles you face there around Black Mesa?
Well, until the project has ended, we are not planning to go anywhere. This is similar to some of the struggles we encounter in Arizona. On our reservation, we're surrounded by 6 coal-fired plants, and that's not by accident, that's by design. And so, again, we have natural resources and indigenous cultures, and the corporations that profit from it. It is because of our coal on our reservation that we make progress possible. We provide electricity in not only Arizona, but Nevada, but also somewhat of Southern California as well. And so, again, we make progress possible, yet we don't get to participate in it. Some of our elders don't have running water or have electricity in some areas of our reservation. And so that is something that brought me here to Standing Rock, because it is a different location, but it's the same fight, because ultimately when you look at this, it is all indigenous land. And so I saw this as a natural transition to come here and offer what I could in service of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe.
Tulsi Gabbard is one of those veterans who came out, the Hawaii Congress member.
Yeah, she did. She answered the call as well. So you had Congress people who are in really in solidarity with us as well. It was great to have her come on board and get involved. She was well received, and she's done a lot of great work herself. So we welcome her with open arms and fully support her and her bringing the message not only to Hawaii, but the rest of the world and her followers.
Finally, Remy, how has this changed you, the standoff at Standing Rock, which you have been a part of for many months now, going through the summer right now to the snow-covered camps?
It's changed me quite a bit, because I see how Indigenous veterans have come here in support. Prior to Wesley Clark Jr.'s call, we had many veterans that have stood up against police and have held off police using this knowledge that they have got from the state. And these are tactics and these are techniques that we've been given, that we were in service for. And so we've been able to really use that against the state itself that is oppressing us. And we're also using that to support and further the message that this pipeline must end. And we should be able to respect Indigenous sovereignty, respect Indigenous bodies. And really, you have seen a resurgence of the pride that comes with serving our country, because again, this is our land originally. And so when we offer enlistment, when we offer our service, it's really an extension of what we have always been in harmony with, and that's with the land. We do whatever it takes to protect it because it protects us. It gives us life, and water is a part of that. And in these elements, they're all life-giving elements, and we respect it and we protect it. So we've been out here in solidarity not only with the Standing Rock people, but in solidarity with Mother Earth itself.
Remy, I want to thank you for being with us. Navy veteran, member of the Navajo Nation movement, artist, organizer who helped organize Veterans Stand for Standing Rock. Thousands came to North Dakota this weekend. This is Democracy Now! Stay with us. False Moon by Them Are Us Too. One of the band's members, Cash Askew, was among the more than 33 victims of the tragic warehouse fire in Oakland, California. She was 22 years old. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Well, on Sunday, celebrations erupted at Standing Rock after the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers announced it denied the Dakota Access Pipeline Company a permit to build the final segment of the $3.8 billion project that would study a possible reroute of the pipeline. This is Kanupahanska Luger.
I think this sort of opportunity here, the thing that has happened here, is that we've recognized that we have agency. We've given a lot of our power to other entities saying, please help us, please save us. But when we come together as living things, as people, well, then suddenly we recognize that we have power. And that's what this country was supposed to be built about. That's what we were supposed to be promised from before. And so, you know, whoever's president, we're human beings. We're the people. We're the reason. We're the living things here, you know? And hopefully that will move forward and can be shared. I mean, if you look down the road here, there are lights as far as the eye can see. People have come to this place to recognize that we have agency. You know, we have power. And when we come together, we recognize it's easier to share. It's easier to share than it is to take away. You know? Sharing is so much easier. I just got a kiss from that guy. Yeah. This is easy. I just stood here.
But what alternate routes would be considered? What will the process of an environmental impact statement look like? Can this decision be reversed once President-elect Donald Trump takes office? And what's next for the resistance movement? To answer some of these questions, we're joined by Tara Hauska, National Campaigns Director for Honor the Earth. She's Ojibwe from Couchiching First Nation. We saw her both times we were in North Dakota, and she joined us on our show. Tara, welcome back to Democracy Now! First, where were you when the news came down yesterday, and what's your response?
I was actually, I got a call from some of the big greens that this call with the White House had taken place, and immediately got into my vehicle and went out to camp. I happened to be in service. I was actually driving down Highway 6 instead of 1806, which remains blockaded. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible moment of grassroots organizing, reaching the highest levels of government and effectuating change. We saw that with the entire review of this permitting process that was a huge win, but specific to this project, now we're seeing this, decision not to grant an easement under Lake Oahe and to look into an environmental impact statement, which is what the tribe has asked for all along.
Now, the Energy Transfer Partner says they're moving ahead. They actually don't need this permit to build. What's your response to them? And are you concerned, though the chairman says there's no way they can build right now, that they will move forward?
It's really not surprising to hear Energy Transfer Partners say those things, seeing as they openly stated in federal court, Dakota Access's attorney stated that the permit was a formality. And the judge said, well, it's clearly not a formality now, is it? So they kind of have this very arrogant attitude of what they believe to be a rubber stamping process to their incredibly destructive project. If Energy Transfer Partners is planning to proceed without a permit and be in total flagrant violation of the law, then I would want to know, what's the administration's response to protecting the lands, protecting the public interest. That's what environmental impact statement is about. If someone's violating the law, they're tasked with enforcing it. So I wonder if federal marshals are going to be sent out or how the Army Corps intends to address a violator of that nature.
So what about this rerouting idea, the rerouting of the pipeline and the environmental impact statement process?
Yeah, one part of this process that's been very difficult for me is actually worked at the White House Council on Environmental Quality as an intern, which is tasked with NEPA, administrating NEPA. So an EIS considers, it'll consider alternate routes, it'll consider a no-build option, all of these different things that should have been done in the first place for a almost 1,200 mile pipeline. I'm really hopeful that this impact statement is done. It's done very effectively, and it's done very all-encompassing, which is what they're supposed to do, cumulative impacts considered. It sounds like they're just going to do an impact statement on just that one little piece and that one little crossing instead of doing a cumulative impact statement. And that's very unfortunate that they continue to use Nationwide Permit 12, but I hope it opens the door to more litigation to, taking that part out of the process.
What happens with Donald Trump administration when he becomes president, who said he supports the pipeline? Can he just reverse all of this?
Yeah, that's a reality of, this victory is, I think, a momentous occasion of feeling the power of the people. But at the same time, we're very aware that the next president coming in is in support of Dakota Access, and will probably, just cancel whatever environmental impact statement is in progress and attempt to push this pipeline through. And that's where I think, it's really incumbent on us to remain vigilant, to recognize the power that's within us of organizing and coming together. This wasn't just Indigenous people. This was people from all nations that came together in support of the water and support of future generations, because this is an issue that affects us all.
Does the Energy Transfer Partners lose something by not building by January 1st?
They do. As this, they recently just brought a suit in court saying that, so far we've cost them $100 million, that the demonstrations against their project has cost them dearly. And, it's a reality that this will eventually become a stranded asset. So, if they can't reach their January 1st build deadlines and, are forced to push this project back, I hope that many of their funding partners, which we have, looked at, and we know there's a full list of them, and people have gone and done direct action, nonviolent direct action at those places, don't support a project that impacts negatively so many people. There's 17 million people that live along the Missouri River. This is Indigenous lands. This is sacred sites being destroyed. No investor should want to be part of a project like that. Move to renewable energy.
Finally, what are you saying about the resistance camps? There are thousands of people who are there. The chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, Dave Archambault, says now you can go home and enjoy your winters at home because this pipeline at this point cannot move forward. Do you feel the same way?
I think it's, the response of the administration from President Obama was due to a lot of pressure. They put out this Army Corps letter saying that they were going to treat Indigenous people as trespassers on treaty lands. More people came.
They said they were going to subject us to local law enforcement. More people came. The veterans all showed up, thousands and thousands of people to effectuate this change. And so knowing that the Trump administration is coming in, this fight is not over. And so, I think maybe people might need a break. Some folks probably need to go home and regroup after such violations have happened, really violent altercations on behalf of the police. And, I think that we need to remain vigilant at the same time and know that this could happen in just a few short months.
Tara Houska, I want to thank you for being with us, National Campaigns Director for Honor the Earth. She's Ojibwe from Cochiching First Nation, has been living in North Dakota now for many months. You're not actually at the resistance camp now. You're in Mandan at the Honor the Earth Jail Support House. Very quickly, in 20 seconds, is there anyone else in jail now who is arrested for protesting the Dakota Access Pipeline, the jail being in Mandan, where you are?
Red Fawn remains in incarceration. She was a woman that was originally charged with attempted murder. The prosecutor had to drop that charge, and now they're charging her with felony possession of a weapon. So her case remains ongoing. But there have been over 500 charges brought, so we have a long road in front of us to actually defend these folks.
Tara Houska is also an Indigenous lawyer. Well, we're going to turn now to our last segment. Across the world, protesters have been targeting banks, demanding they divest from the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline. This is a member of the Bellingham No DAPL coalition at a Wells Fargo branch in Washington State Saturday.
We, the Bellingham No DAPL, No Dakota Access Pipeline Coalition, are here in attendance today, December 3rd, 2016, at the Wells Fargo branch in Bellingham, Washington, to protest institutions' investment in the Sunco Logistics, energy transfers, and energy transfer equity. We refuse to be silent, community members, in your decision to support the destructive fossil fuel economy in general and the Dakota Access Pipeline in particular.
This comes as a new report exposes the rickety finances behind the Dakota Access Pipeline, as they say, published by the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis and the Sightline Institute. It spotlights a potential economic weakness of the project, the January 1st deadline by which Energy Transfer Partners had promised oil companies it would have completed construction. Missing the January 1st deadline opens up the possibility the pipeline company may lose its contracts with oil companies. Well, for more, we go to Seattle, Washington, where we're joined by Clark Williams-Derry, Director of Energy Finance at the Sightline Institute, co-author of the new report, The Rickety Finances Behind the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we're joined by Michael Vendiola, member of the Swinomish Indian tribal community, who helped organize a protest at Wells Fargo Saturday in solidarity with Standing Rock, as well as with the Canadian First Nations resisting another major oil company, the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Expansion Project. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Let's begin with Clark. Tell us, summarize your findings. Why do you talk about the rickety financing of the Dakota Access Pipeline?
That's a good question. So really one of the fundamental findings of our report was that the oil market has changed dramatically since the pipeline was first proposed in early 2014. Back then, oil prices were at $100 a barrel or more, and oil production in North Dakota was rising. It kept rising and rising. And all the forecasts said that oil prices were going to remain high and that oil production in North Dakota was going to remain robust. But almost as soon as the company signed up its first set of shippers, the first commitments from oil companies to ship through the pipeline, you started to see the oil markets collapse. You saw prices fall from $100 a barrel down to $50 a barrel. And as that happened, oil companies in North Dakota started to pull back. They weren't drilling as much. A lot of them were starting to lose money from some of their oil projects in the Bakken region in North Dakota. And so what you started to see is a decline in production. You've already seen a 20% dip in production in the Bakken region since oil prices started to collapse. And it's still collapsing. It's still declining by 1% or 2% every month. And if those declines, that decline in production continues, well, it's not clear that the pipeline's capacity is going to be needed at all. There've already been a bunch of pipelines built and approved. There's a lot of there's refining capacity in the region. There's oil by rail capacity in the region. The extra capacity of the Dakota Access Pipeline just may not be necessary. And that poses a real risk to the company.
So January 1st, this deadline. What happens if oil shippers, oil companies choose to renegotiate their contracts?
Yeah, this is something that's come up in the court in court cases several times now. The lawyers for the Dakota Access Company have said that they have that their committed shippers have the right to terminate their contracts if the company doesn't meet its January 1st deadline. We don't know. We've actually heard a few things suggesting that it's just an informal deadline, but they've argued very clearly to the courts that it's not informal, that this is an actual contractual deadline. If some of the shippers were to pull out of the Dakota Access Pipeline at that point, well, you could see it could start to create a financial disaster for the company. The company really depends on those contracts. You can actually imagine that some of the oil shippers might be thinking, well, with production down, with prices down, maybe this would be a great time to pull back from our commitments to the pipeline. And in fact, I think the investors in those companies should be encouraging the oil shippers to pull back, to take a second look, and think about whether it makes sense for the long run. In a region where oil production is falling, you don't want to make a 7 to 10 year commitment to keep shipping oil through the pipeline. You're just going to wind up wasting money.
Michael Vendiola, you were one of the organizers of the Wells Fargo protest on Saturday. On Sunday, the decision came down by the Obama administration, the Army Corps of Engineers, to deny the easement under the Missouri. Your response to that and what your plans are now from the United States to Canada?
Sure. We're excited that the Obama administration has made this decision, but we're also wary of policy that's put forward. We're in alignment with the Standing Rock Sioux and the Sacred Stone Camp, and we're going to be following their lead and seeing as this progresses. We've signed treaties with the federal government, and we know that those treaties can be betrayed. So this is just another so-called agreement that is put forth, which could be turned over as soon as another president comes in. So our strategy right now is to follow the lead of Water is Life. That's what we're organizing under as the banner that has been put forth by the Standing Rock Sioux and the Sacred Stone Camp. And so to be cliche, we're trying to hit them in the pocketbook.
So which are the banks that you are targeting, Michael?
Yes, our action this past Saturday was against Wells Fargo. We're looking at Chase Bank, U.S. Bank, Bank of America. We have a list of 17 banks that are investors within the energy transfer partnerships and putting the Dakota Access Pipeline together.
The Canadian Prime Minister has just announced that the government had cleared the way for Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Expansion Project, a pipeline. Your response and how you're linking it to DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Right. That looks to be the West Coast version of DAPL, and it's we feel like it's a travesty, and really we were working on providing testimony, and we, as in the Coast Salish tribes of Washington State, were invited to give testimony on the Kinder Morgan project, and we feel a bit betrayed by this decision by the Prime Minister to go forward with this after we had given a consolidated testimony.
Well, clearly another issue we have to cover, but we have to wrap up now. Michael Vendiola, thank you for joining us, and Clark Williams-Derry will link to your report, The Rickety Finances Behind the Dakota Access Pipeline. That does it for our show. Tonight, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary here in New York City at Riverside Church. Tune in at 7 p.m. for our special live stream of Democracy Now! Celebration with Harry Belafonte, Noam Chomsky, Patti Smith, Danny DeVito, Danny Glover, Tom Morello, Juan Gonzalez, Patti Smith, and others. You can watch right here at DemocracyNow.org or on your station. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.